What's up, guys? It's Garrett here from Tech Yeah, and today I've got a little bit of a special thing for you. It's our first video, and we're going to start this series off. It's going to be called Tech My Budget. We're going to take a rudimentary amount of money for each computer, ideally under $100. And this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to take old spinning hard drives out of some of these older machines, and we're going to put in newer SSDs. Now, this process took about an hour for each computer. Ran into just about every problem that you can run into while doing this. So some of it's going to be time lapsed just to save time. I ran into several things. So I tried to set this up for every scenario that you could possibly encounter while doing this. So enjoy. Alright, so what we have here is an HP ProDesk 600 G1 with a Core i7 4790K. And on the right side here is an HP 24-inch all-in-one. It's got a Pentium J3710. Here's the materials I used for today on these computers here. First up, we have this Inland Professional 256 gig. It was $32 at Micro Center. And then over on the right, we have the 870 Evo 500 gig. Got an Office Depot for $59. And then here in the middle, we have a USB enclosure. That way we're able to clone the disk. The first thing I had to do on each machine was go through and test what the shutdown and then what the restart times were. I was actually pleasantly surprised to see that the shutdown times seem to be very negligible, and they don't seem to depend too much on what you have in your config. Now the startup time here, I want to make note of at the very end, is 1 minute and 49 seconds to load a screen and to get useful information. So that's basically what I wanted to do. I wanted to start it from a cold start, and then load into Windows and actually load a program, and then go to youtube.com and get useful information on the screen. With the all-in-one, this is kind of where I was surprised. It didn't take any time at all to shut down. I figured this was going to take a lot longer than what it did. But as you can see, just like the other machine, 3 seconds seems to be about normal. Now on the startup was different. Got about 3 minutes here in total. I have this time lapsed, so if it looks a little funny, that's what you're seeing. But finally, the little machine does seem to make it into Windows, and we get everything loaded. We managed to get Google Chrome to load, and I managed to get it to YouTube. Now I'm ready to get everything set up. This is the Sabrent SSD, or I guess it's just for any 2.5-inch drive that you would want to convert to USB 3.0. And then here we have the Inland Professional 256 gig drive. And we're going to get this open, and we're going to put it in the hard drive enclosure. That way we can hook it into the machine and make a clone of the system drive. That way we can drop in the SSD and boot the computer up. And as far as the computer is concerned, nothing's changed really, except for the speed at which it can read from the drive. This enclosure was really nice. I was able to get this in here with one hand even. As you can see, I was trying to hold the camera with my other hand. But no harm, no foul. I got it to slip right in there. At first, I attempted to use this OME backupper software. I read it on several tutorials and even saw a video from Jay's 2 cents about it. Um, in the long run, it turned out to be terrible software, in my opinion. Um, a lot of ads, super bloated, just wanting you to put in stuff all the time. So I ended up not using that. I ended up using a combination of Windows Disk Management, Macrium Reflect, and EaseUS Partition Manager. All have free versions. I was able to use a combination of each. There's enough interest in any of those programs, either EaseUS, Macrium Reflect, or even just learning how to use Microsoft's disk management in Windows. Leave a comment, and I can do future videos about those. Once I got things the way I wanted them, I had to use a combination of these tools. I had to use Windows Disk Management to shrink one partition down, and then I had to use EaseUS to move that partition over, and then I had to clone everything with Macrium and then expand the C drive volume out using disk management. But once I figured all that out, it was time to actually clone the drive, and that went off without a hitch. Macrium Reflect, that is the free part of their software. My dog had enough of waiting for me to get this done, and I can't say that I blame her. The clone took about 20 minutes, so I would suggest walking away, go find something to do, and then come back. The reason I had to do this is because I was going from a larger 500 gig drive down to a 256 gig drive, and that was just to make the recovery partition on the very end of the disk fit on to the new SSD. EaseUS was actually a really intuitive software. I know the things that I'm doing with Macrium I can do in EaseUS if I get the paid version, so I may try that in the future. Both softwares seem to be very good at doing backups as well, so that is something to keep in mind. I'll put a link to both softwares in the description below. This was me opening up the all-in-one. This is where the drive goes. I just took out the old Toshiba drive, got attacked by another animal, and then we were ready to actually get this done and underway. Alright, here comes the great moment here. Well, we're going to go ahead and we got everything in, we're starting it up. Really pay attention to the end number here. I'll give it away. It was 1 minute 49 seconds, which effectively with the SSD, it now has the startup time of the other machine with its spinning disk, but that's still, it's starting up and running as fast as the Core i7 with the spinning drive. So that's a huge improvement in speed. So I'll take it. Alright, with that out of the way, it was time to get the 870 EVO drive and put that into the external enclosure. Just like the previous drive, this was very simple to do. It was literally just 2 screws that clicks right onto the external drive. The Sabrent enclosure from Micro Center, I will link that in the description below as well. I'm not sponsored by any of these companies. These are just products that I believe in. I put them in. These are my personal computers, so I would recommend these to anybody. The 870 EVO drive does come at probably a $10 to $20 premium over other budget SSD options. But with an SSD, that extra money is going to get you a little bit better of a write speed. Read speeds can be trivial, and then you'll also get more operations that you can perform per second, and a little bit of more longevity out of the Samsung drives. Realistically, they're all pretty comparable nowadays. I have the drive in the enclosure there, plugging it in. Now, while trying to clone this using the same method, I discovered that the spinning hard drive in this machine actually had some bad sectors, and it was not repairable by a check disk. So I'll spare you all of that boringness. Eventually what I had to resort to doing was just putting the Evo drive in and reinstalling Windows. This is something that happens quite frequently. I would recommend keeping a backup of your data. Keeping multiple copies of now. I know a lot of people nowadays are really into using Google Drive. That is a super helpful thing, especially using their Google Photos tools. That way you have backups of your photos. But it would be a smart idea to also get Google Drive installed or something similar and point it to certain folders and directories in your computer, which I'm going to do a whole episode about keeping your data backed up. But once I finally gave up on trying to clone this disk, I just, I got it in here, and I had to reinstall Windows, which is always pleasant. I'll spare you the boring details. It's always a process installing Windows. I do have to say though, that was probably one of the quickest Windows installations I've ever done. It was very painless. I had to go through the whole setup process and do all that stuff, but finally, after getting all that done, I shut the computer down and I was ready to test it out. Check out these speed results. This computer, several years old, it's got a 4th gen i7 in it. Here we go. And that was 13 seconds. There we go, 16 to get into the OS. I'm not going to bother loading anything. It's plain to see we went from 1 minute 48 seconds to 16 seconds just to get into the operating system. So it would have been another 5 to 10 seconds to open Google Chrome. Alright, and kudos to anybody that stayed till the end of this video. I know that was kind of a lot. I know we ran into several issues. The all-in-one, surprisingly, being the cheaper computer of the two, at least when they were originally manufactured, was kind of surprising that I had less issues with that one, even having to shrink the partitions, resize them, move them around, expand them back out when I was done putting in the new drive. But we didn't have to reinstall Windows, so it was kind of stinks that we found a bad hard drive. I'd like to kind of take the time to point this out. The drive that I pulled from that unit, I'm going to put a picture of it some point right now. It was a Western Digital blue drive. Anytime I've ever used a Western Digital blue drive, be it spinning drive, SSD, SATA, or the M.2s, every time I have used a Western Digital blue drive in any of my computers, they have consistently died. I've not had the one that I had. It was only 128 gigabyte SSD, but the trouble being is it didn't even last a whole 30 days, and that was something that I bought at Office Depot, just like the Samsung Evo drive that we put in. So just these are things to be aware of, and it's another good reason to keep backups. It's always a good idea to have a couple copies of the things that are most important to you, because as we saw here, even sometimes doing an upgrade to gain performance can cause you to lose precious data depending on the state of things. So I hope you guys all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.